you doing?
Hi, I'm okay. How are you?
Okay, how's your work been going?
Nice. Well, as always, there are ups and downs. Um, yeah, I don't even know, honestly. So for today, too, I was wondering if maybe we could do something, but it's okay if you're not open to it. Can I, it's like related to my schoolwork, but in a weird way. Could I, like, let you know for a sec what it is, offer it?
Oh, yeah, sure, go ahead. Yeah.
So I have a class on careers and working in academia, and they want us to do informational interviews. So how would you feel about me like chatting with you for a little bit of the meeting about like working in the writing center? It's okay if you don't want to.
So you're interested in applying to work at the writing center, or?
Well, we just are like assigned to do informational interviews, so it is something that I could see myself doing. Would I actually apply like now? No. But just to get more, it's like kind of just more like a practice, if that makes sense.
Oh, I see. So this is something that you're referring to careers, the Department of Careers that's located in the UCC. Is that correct?
Oh no, my whole class actually. Sorry, my class for the English. We have a whole English graduate class right now that's called like careers and working in and around academia or something. So for that
I see. So you have to kind of as part of the project, like showing preparation. As if I wanted to apply for a position here, here's what I would do, or be involved in the position.
Or like,
and then what? Yeah.
Well, basically, like, they want us to practice this very specific, like, informational interview. So, like, basically just ask someone whose position you could see applying for, like, a couple of questions about, like, whether they like it, basically, or what they think of it, those kind of things.
Oh, okay. So you'll be looking at my kind of personal opinion on the role.
Yeah. Would that be okay?
That'd be okay. I'll do my best to answer the question, so it's understood that this is sort of reflective of my own opinion. Then.
Yes. I think in a way that like that's kind of the whole point of it, right? Is to just get like a little snapshot, right? Yeah. No, it would just be absolutely.
Oh, just because if you wanted to, for example, speak like on sort of like representing the Writing Support Center, I could direct you to my supervisor, Paul. He's the manager for the Writing Support Center. So if you were looking for more like information about the center in that way, sort of, I'd probably direct you towards him. But if it's sort of like my own experience as a job, I'd say sure, I can share that with you.
Okay, I think I went to one of his talks on. Anyway, I might have I've been to one of his talks before. One of my questions is to ask if there's anyone you could put me in touch with, again, as a practice. So I guess yes. I would like that information, but if I could still ask you a few questions, that would be nice.
Yeah, his contact is on our website. Okay. So if you go to like our website under like the FAQs, or actually I think it might be about the Writing Support Center, you'll see his name. So Paul Schmidt, he's the manager of the Writing Support Center, and you'll see my contact information there as well too. Okay. But he's been the manager for quite a while now, actually.
Cool, thank you. Okay, awesome. Okay. So they have a couple like boring boilerplate questions, and then I have a couple that I would just like ask because I'm interested. What appeals to you more?
We can do both if you want to. If you
sure.
It's a choice between either one, you decide. It's perfectly fine with mine.
Well, okay. Maybe let's do the boring one. So I'll practice in a sense. Okay. So one of them is there any skills you wish you had developed before you started working at the Writing Center?
Before I started working at the Writing Center, I wish I had a stronger background in linguistics. So I didn't when I started, but then in the process, along the way I took some courses in just kind of basic linguistics and some also more specific courses about grammar.
Oh, cool.
That was both very helpful in my role.
Yeah, totally. In linguistics, do you mean like I'm just being curious. Like because I know the psychology department offers some, or what kind of classes did you take, or what did you want to learn about it?
It was specifically a history of the English language, so we covered some basic things like morphemes, phonology, and we covered some of that in the course of it as well too. But it was actually an English course.
Yeah, I've taken it. It's great. Okay, it's actually really hard though and boring. I'm not gonna lie. I took it. I liked it, but it was also horrible. So I'm glad you sat through it.
I did get through it, and you learn a lot about etymology and so on. And I just thought it was beneficial, especially for helping with international learners. But I would also say that I would have also liked to have spent more time. Well,
and you don't just have to answer that question either. Like it doesn't have to directly address it.
Yeah, no, I would say that definitely was something helpful. That as I went through the job, I thought, oh, this is kind of good.
Was there something else you were going to say that kind of didn't answer the question? Because I would still like to hear it. I don't really care about the questions.
I feel like there's more opportunities to grow as well too in the field of presentations, because with the kind of increase in AI, what we're seeing now is professors are kind of assigned more oral tasks, like more presentations. So I feel like that's an area, although I haven't taken any kind of professional development in it as of yet, that is an area that I'd like to grow in, only because I have my own experience with things like presentation and slide design and so on, but nothing that I've been taught explicitly. More what I've picked up over the years.
Yeah, totally. Are you like if this is too personal, just don't answer, but are you like a PhD student at Western, or do you go to Western at all still, or?
I've completed a couple degrees at Western, but no, I'm not currently a student. I'm a staff member.
Okay, cool. Okay, that's fair, because I know as a graduate student, they will let you do some teaching workshops. I wonder, will they still let you do them as a staff member, I wonder?
Sorry, to teach workshops?
Well, like as a grad student, because they're trying to make us into TAs, I know that they offer a bunch of stuff about, I don't know, it's like leadership. It's always like TA training workshops.
That might be through the Center for Teaching and Learning, correct?
Yeah.
Yep. They have a lot of training for TAs that you can enroll in, which I understand are quite beneficial.
Yeah, I went to one. It was pretty good. Okay, what else do I have? This is an interesting one, maybe. What do people go on to do after working at the Writing Support Center? Like, if you've heard anything.
Oh, yes, we have people who actually are currently our faculty members, so they bounce back and forth between teaching courses at Western or other institutions and also working at the Writing Center. Some of them have also just gone on to getting more full-time faculty positions, so they worked for some time at the Writing Center and then they left to go and work full-time in a faculty at university. We've had people who've gone on to law practice.
Wow, cool.
A lot of this is more of our part-time employees and then volunteer. So I sometimes keep in touch with my volunteers. I have one who is currently completing a master's at Oxford. She is intending to she wants to become a professor as well too, likely English. I've had people that are in medical practice as well too now. So they've gone on to study medicine and they are currently pursuing their medical degree. Let me think now. I'm trying to recall names. Yep. Let me see.
So it sounds like it's kind of I don't know how to say it, but kind of like a jumping off ground for academics, kind of like a transitional space almost sometimes to get further into the field they're trying to go.
Yes, I think that's a good way to say it, and sometimes related fields as well too. I have a volunteer who now works in publishing.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. That's great. So it doesn't feel it feels like there's some upward mobility is very 1800s way to say that, but you could do something else that might be good for you career-wise with that.
Some people have worked with us for some time. Other people, they worked here at Western alongside while they were completing a degree, and then when they completed the degree, that's when they pursued more full-time work that related to their goals.
What would you do? Do you like it there? Would you do you feel settled into are you using it as a transitional space? And again, if it's personal, just ignore me. But
I'm not currently using it as a transitional, so I've been working here for some time. So my intention is to continue working in student services. Whether that role will change in the sense that things always move a little bit at universities in terms of how universities are structured. My intention is to stay within student services, whether that's still in the capacity of writing or, a broader kind of like learning or services. Well, we'll see, but I would say I'm kind of established and settled in this role.
That totally makes sense because like you're so good at it. Like because I've talked to a lot of people at the Writing Center, and I was so like, I remember the first time I talked to you, I was like, wow, like she really like knows what she's doing. So that's cool. Very nice. Okay, so does that mean, so I guess these are my more kind of questions, maybe that are more idiosyncratic a little bit, like, so do you find the job overall satisfying, or are there any, like, really notable limitations that kind of, like, irk you more over time, or, like, what do you think of it?
I would say I find the job satisfying because I find that it's working with students that's the satisfying part. It's always about meeting them where they are, helping them achieve, more push towards their goals. So because, every year we meet new students with new goals, it's always, you could say the same objective, but it's always new challenges and new ways of, I would say, helping people where they're at, which I think is sometimes that means just meeting someone once and helping them through the next stage. Sometimes it's I've met with students where we spend 2 or 3 years working together and then they're moving on to another role. Yeah,
that's cool. I've always for myself too, like I wanted to be a therapist or like a teacher because I like that too. So I relate to that. Because people I think are like endlessly fascinating. Even if you're only working on like one facet of work together, like everyone brings so much uniqueness, right, and flavor to like conversations. Yeah, that's great.
And it's enjoyable being a sort of consistent presence on the university because, we're not, the university funds some projects that maybe only last a year or two, but it's nice knowing that this is something that the university wants to kind of consistently invest in. So we know that we can say, we'll be here next year to help you, continue with your studies or the year after.
Oh yeah, that's true, and it's wonderful. I keep telling my undergrads that I TA for to go. I hope maybe I'll ask them at the end of the semester if they have, because it's so great.
Good.
And I remember when I went to Brock, they had like no social services, and I was like, well, okay. So every time I go to a Western social service, I feel like really grateful. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Sometimes it can be harder to maintain these programs in some universities.
Yeah, totally. Okay. Okay. I only had 2 other questions. If that's still okay.
Yeah.
One, I guess maybe you answered a little bit, but more, I was just wondering, like, how are the students? Like, are they polite? Like, are they very demanding? Like, is it a good thing that the students are your clients? I guess, like, university age students is, like, a specific demographic of society, right? Like, it sounds like you like that, though.
I would say that the students are overwhelmingly positive, they're overwhelmingly polite, they're coming to us because they want to learn and grow. Occasionally we will encounter students whose behavior might be somewhat more challenging. However, I understand, and most of my colleagues will probably agree with me, when those encounters happen, it's because the student is stressed. They're stressed, they're under maybe some kind of duress, they're dealing with a crisis. So part of my job is understanding, again, like kind of meeting them where they are. If we're having difficulties kind of figuring, communicating, oftentimes it's like, let's take a moment and kind of understand where you're at right now. What kind of stresses are you dealing with? What kind of challenges? How can we kind of come up with a plan to manage that? So sometimes I think this idea, like, I'll come and get writing help in one session, but that may not always be feasible. So if I understand a little bit about, a student's context, what they're dealing with, I can think, what would really work well, let's do this. Maybe if we can meet more than once, maybe we can kind of work out with your professor. Sometimes I refer them to my colleagues in other departments. So if I know that there could be maybe a learning difficulty or challenge, I can say, I know someone in the learning department who could be a real asset here, or here's what we can do about this. So if students are willing to share where they're at and how I can help with that, I feel like it definitely helps with any difficult situations.
It's cool too that, like, because Western has such a robust student services system, that like even as a TA for me, it feels nice that there are actually places I could recommend them that could actually help too. Like, I think it's a good structure we have at Western, right? Where, you know, you are empowered to, like, you can know people in other departments that, like, could help. Like, that's kind of wonderful, right?
Exactly, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Okay, that makes sense. I'm glad they're mostly polite and wanting to learn. Wanting to learn, I feel like, is the most fun thing in a conversation, right? Like,
well, they absolutely are, and even so, I train our volunteers who are their students, volunteers, and I let them know, you know, for the I kind of get, you know, here's a possible circumstance, you know, kind of like worst case scenarios of what could happen, but then I conclude with saying, but you're very unlikely you're going to encounter any of these. I've encountered some worst case scenarios just by virtue of being around for a while. But they are rare occurrences, and they only come up every now and then, which is why I know with a lot of my volunteers, they only may work for me like a year or two. In that time, it's like you're likely going to see like 99%, you know, wonderful, positive students who not only come with the right attitude of I want to work and improve and I'm willing to hear feedback, but they're, you know, they're extremely grateful as well too, which is not something you say, oh, we certainly don't require students to show us gratitude, but they are. So it definitely is very rewarding being able to understand the impact.
yeah, that was actually my last question, was exactly that. Like, if you feel like it's making a difference, and even on a more meta level, I guess I was just wondering, like, anecdotally, do you ever see any students come over time to have appointments with you, and after a while you're like, oh, I see that they're doing something better than before? Like, is there any... Now, I know some students may only come a few times, but do you ever notice, like, oh, hey, like, they're doing well, and it's not like you're totally responsible, but, like, you know, like, can you see any changes based on the advice?
I might play a role in that, but the more important role is where it begins, where they took the initiative. They were vulnerable. They went out and said, I'm not happy, or I'm not meeting my goals where I am right now. I'm going to go and get support. That is always the key difference between those people who are willing to grow and develop and seek support and those that aren't. So yeah, certainly I've seen it happen, and I've seen students improve, but it's because of their initiative, not necessarily, you know, people also benefit from other sources as well too, but until they take advantage of it, no improvement's going to happen. So that I can say, I certainly have seen students who didn't have the attitude of I need to change or I need to confront something in my performance and that I might need to reevaluate and redo. Or I've had to work for a while with a student until they could see that they needed to change their approach. So that first step of taking an initiative, I think, is the crucial element. But absolutely, yes, I've seen students who oftentimes they come in with a belief system. And that belief system is what's preventing them from growing. Sometimes it's a knowledge thing, sometimes it's an experience thing, sometimes it's a belief system of I can't write. Or someone in my past told me I can't write, and now I believe that. So I'm happy to work with students if that's sometimes the case. Sometimes we are working with okay, why do you believe this, and how can we challenge that belief, and then how can we work on proving to yourself that no, you actually can write. We just have to work on, you know, strategies to be more effective or more efficient in the writing process.
That's good too, because that's kind of like exposure therapy, like wanting to provide actual evidence, right, about success, about fear. Like, that's wonderful. Yeah, and I love exposure therapy. Works really well for me. So that's beautiful. That's great. Okay.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad I was able to answer the questions for you, Jen.
Yeah, thank you. This was great. Okay, can you give me like 2 seconds to write a couple notes? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Take your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I had actually like so we'll transition, I guess, to my role as, you know, needing help, if that's okay. But I have a couple of comments, maybe related to what you said, but that I can kind of flip to the rest of the appointment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. One was, so after I talked to you, I'm talking to a couple of my students. Yeah, I think. Well, actually, they're not the ones who really need it, but I have a couple of students in my first year class, so it's been a whole year class, so a first year English class, where they're just not improving. And I think that I also had too high expectations. Like, they met with me once after they got a bad mark, and then we did another assignment, but then they didn't really improve on anything. And I was a little sad because I thought they would improve on something. Do you, like, I don't know, maybe, like, what do you think of that? Or, like, should I specifically encourage them to talk to me again? Or, like, that feels bad, dude. That just is hard.
So you had one assignment. What kind of assignment was it? Was it an essay? Was it a sort of written piece? Or
yeah, an essay. Because this class had very few assignments, but the essay they both got around, like, 68 on. Like, they didn't do well, and I don't like giving out 60s at all.
Yes, and did they approach you about the mark?
Yeah, so they did. That's what was hard about it, because they approached me and I gave them all this feedback, and then it didn't feel like any of it got changed for the next little assignment, so that won't really affect their marks. But now they have a final paper to do, so it'd be nice if I can somehow help them get a little better mark on the final assignment.
Mm-hmm. And they aren't approaching you about the final assignment, so do you have office hours?
No, they're not. I wonder if they also feel a little frustrated because they did approach me and then their marks didn't get better, right?
Yes. So I guess what I could recommend in this case, now these are my own personal thoughts.
Yeah.
There's a course professor, right? Someone who supervises the course?
I am the teaching assistant. So, which means, so we have a tutorial once a week. So the professor does a lecture of 100 students, then the students get broken into 4 groups with 4 different TAs. So I see the same students every week for an hour. So that's my role, but I basically mark all their stuff, and the professor doesn't do much. So he wants us to feel like a teacher, I think.
Yes, I was going to say, the professor who does the lecturing, are they offering any mentorship to the TAs in terms of here's how you should think about the grading process, here's how you should approach students who are, being challenged academically? Have they given any direction or supervision in that regards?
He is kind of liberal with marks. He hasn't even done, like, the legal things he is supposed to check in with us for, like, the union. He just doesn't even do that. So, no, we don't really... He doesn't even respond to email.
Okay, so he himself is not being too... like I said, not really providing direct mentorship in terms of how you should tutor and how you should approach, like, the sort of pedagogical, like, the education aspect of the role.
Well, he said at the beginning of the year, basically tell them what you want to see because you're marking them. So he is also allowing us to be a little idiosyncratic in, like, what we want to see. So I feel like I told them what I wanted to see, but then I didn't see more of that in a sense.
Mm-hmm. And is the course routine, or is it a first year course?
Yeah.
Does completion or the successful grade in this course determine whether they can continue on with their degree in other programs, or is it like a how do you want to say? Is it a foundation course or other?
One of the 2 students with a really low mark, it is because she said she had gotten into the English program and she was coming from high school during COVID, where, like, it sounds like they were really permissive with the marks. So she's maybe getting her first, like, real feedback about paper writing in a couple of years, and she's in the English program. So, yeah, I mean, she said she needs, like, a 70, I think.
So, my thoughts could be that in terms of my advice for you, it is a little bit hard for me to provide advice in this regard, only because I wonder if this would be a position where, the professor or an academic advisor might be able to kind of play a role. Given that I'm just a writing advisor, what I guess I would think is, have you mentioned the student the idea of, like, going and seeking help with the writing advisor? So,
I really do, especially the one student, the other student who I don't think needs it to progress, because she doesn't even have sentences. Like, it's really a mess, and I keep telling her, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay. So you have mentioned to both of them, like, highly recommended, like, you should go and get help for writing. Yes. Okay. And they have not consulted with you during office hours at all?
Well, they did come the one time after receiving, because this course only has like 4 marks for the whole year. So after getting the first big essay mark, then they came, and now there's just basically one, and then they wrote a small assignment, which they also got low marks on. Now they have to write one more big assignment. So then they came after they got the first big assignment, had a low mark. To
discuss the grade, but have they discussed their approach to writing, their understanding of the course material? Have they been in touch and have they tried to learn from you that way about the concerns, or are they mainly just discussing grades?
Oh, they wanted to learn. I mean, I definitely told them what I thought about whatever was going on with the papers.
Yeah, okay. Well, I can say that first year can be a major adjustment for many students. It definitely is a time not just of learning new material, but of breaking down old habits and old thinking approaches that maybe were rewarded in high school, but that are not rewarded in university. It can be very hard for a lot of first-year students to grasp that, because they've just spent 4 years building the foundation in here's how things work in high school, and now they have to break down that foundation and rebuild it, and that it can be quite challenging. You know, and for some students, there can be a lot of emotional associations as well too with this idea of imposter syndrome. So I'm not doing well, therefore I don't belong in university. It can sometimes also be a result of bad habits. So putting off getting work done, procrastination, not putting the amount of effort required of a writing assignment into it, because in high school sometimes it's much easier to write an assignment. You can do it in the last 2 days. That's you can do it in university too, but it will definitely show. I'll definitely see that this assignment was not, you did not invest the time and effort into completing the assignment. So,
can I have a question about that? Because am I like an asshole for marking if I can tell whether they invested time or energy? Because I do mark that way, but should we be marking that way?
I will say that I have encountered many professors who, especially for first year situations, will be more lenient than they would be for their upper year students, which I think to an extent is, I can see their justification for it, because a lot of students are going through a period of, I really need to change my approach. So they wouldn't mark as harshly, which I think maybe is a sign of both graciousness and a sense of like, look, if this person needs opportunity to understand, it's not great, but you're going to have to work harder if you want to advance.
Okay.
So I definitely would think about kind of keeping that in context,
I had never thought of that, because a lot of them are fourth-year students who are done all their other courses, and they think this is the easiest course, whereas, like, this student, the one particularly, she is, like a baby university student, in a sense, who actually wants to do English, so that is very different, right? Even in terms of, like, age, like, literally brain development is different.
It is, and that is also something that can be very hard, and it's very hard for especially first-year students who are just emerging from university, 17, 18 in some cases. It's very hard at that age to see the consequences and understand, I need to be more critical and reflective in the writing. Sometimes it's challenging, because I see high school students, the papers that they write, there's almost a complete absence of any critical thought in the writing. They're oftentimes rewarded for simply stating
and it's so painful, because I can't do it in English. You're not really allowed to reward for them just stating the obvious. It's a very ideas-based, creative type modality, right? It's not like science. Like, you can't just be correct because you've now provided 80% of the facts you were supposed to memorize, and now I'm like, this is 80% good, right? That a lot of many high school curriculums reward that work, which then imparts to them the message. It gives them 2 different messages. One, as long as I put out information on the page that's, basically I found this information somewhere else, I'm going to put on a page there, reward me. 2, it trains them to assume that the source of logic, reasoning, and insight is external to them. That ideas come from somewhere else, not from them.
And I find that's the hardest, usually the problem with first-year students is getting to say, I don't want to hear what someone else thinks. I want to hear what you think, how you apply logic and reasoning. I don't need you to come up with a theory. I need you to look at the evidence and tell me what you deduce based on this evidence. So we're talking about Oscar Wilde or Mary Shelley's Frankenstein or something. It's like, okay, have you taken the time to ask questions? Mm-hmm. Why is the creature in Frankenstein, why does the creature not leave its creator alone? Why is a sort of like linked, relationship here where you think that the creature now has autonomy and freedom, where it has life? Why doesn't it just bugger off and leave Victor alone? Mm-hmm. No, it's sort of like tied in with that. So because they lack a lot of experience and a lot of context, sometimes they don't kind of get a sense of like, okay, so the creation relationship, does that tie in with, is the creature, who's greater? Is it the creation or the creator? And, it gets into kind of questions about like, what does it mean to be a creation? Are we now obligated to our creator? What does it mean to have autonomy? Taking the time to ask these questions can be frustrating for young people because they don't have the answers and they assume that there are answers. And as you advance through scholarly studies, what you understand is actually the more and more you learn, sometimes the less and less you know, which is a bizarre sort of paradox. You think, how can I learn more and know less? Because you just have more questions. That's why.
True.
We run into more and more problems. It's unpacking the problems and identifying the cause or the dynamics or what is the nature of these problems. That is what scholarship is. Sometimes we never get answers, but in continuing to explore, we continue to kind of understand something in greater and greater depth.
Okay. Wow. That's like, I think I needed to hear all of that as a student as well.
That's something that that is something that a drawing professor, so I did a program in visual arts, and in I believe it was my drawing professor, so we actually had to take courses in things like drawing and painting and photography, and he told me something that applies specifically to art, but I feel like it could address other things. He says, art is good when it's a question and not an answer. Which is to say, now maybe this applies more to artistic and humanities, but this idea of we're never really going to know the answer, but what's the question?
No, I think that's right. There was one of my professors too, a theory professor. He said like you need your sentences to have, and he called it like this like, and I think I mentioned this to you before, but it reminds me of this like some sort of like rhetorical tension or like theoretical tension where like even within the question or a sentence itself, like the meaning is not really resolved, right? Like it kind of sticks with you because there's like other ways it could go, and that's really important. Like you're not locking down meaning in these like very finite, dumb binary type ways, right? You're letting the meaning kind of escape the writing even as a way of embracing that chaos a little bit.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So to kind of get to your question, like what to do, because I know we've kind of been talking about, but it always comes down to, okay, so what do you do? I'm a little bit unsure about what to advise you to do because I'm thinking, is it beyond your responsibility to approach the student and say, we should have a discussion about this or we should make a plan? For some people, that then becomes a sort of like now you're enabling them to sort of, give up responsibility and kind of rely on you. Has the person indicated that they want that kind of help? So if they want that kind of help, my thought is, well, they should be approaching you during office hours or saying, well, can I do this or can I do that? I'm not sure if they are. Maybe they don't. Maybe they want to kind of resolve things on their own. I'm not sure if that's something where you can say, no, I want you to work this out on me because, let me ask you this, Jen, in some way, do you feel a sense of guilt that if this person doesn't do well, that it's, that you would feel guilty, or that you'll be like a poor reflection on your abilities as a TA?
I'm not sure. I think because I've never been a TA before and I haven't given them a final mark. I'm not sure. Because of course you can, like I'm also a psychology student. Of course, like you can parse out that it obviously couldn't be the majority of your fault, and yet, right, you were supposed to do something.
It sounds to me like you have done things, though. Number one, you are this person's TA. You show up for your job. You teach the material. Number two, you grade and you give feedback. Number three, you've given further feedback when they, not just the initial written feedback that you're obliged to give as part of your job, but you've also given additional feedback as well, too. So there's three things that I think you've done that are beneficial to this person.
If they seem like they're just not good at English, at what point, I never really thought I would be concerned about this because I'm an eternal optimist, but how do you know whether no, I don't even know how that is a completely unanswerable question, which is I think you can only put out the good energy and advice that you can into the world, and I don't think you can ever really determine if and when that kind of comes to fruition or not, right? I don't think that's really our place, but okay, so I'll just...
Are you concerned it's a part of do I inform this person that they're not succeeding?
No, I just wouldn't do that, but it just feels like...
I would definitely advise against that.
No.
Yeah. From my own experience, I would say actually I struggled a lot as an English student in my first year, to the point where if I look back and I think, man, I'm surprised no one told me not to stop this. But they didn't, and I was hard at first, but I got better and I improved. And secondly, I've heard from many people who have been told that message by teachers or authority figures, and it never goes well. Oftentimes they'll say, that was the moment in which I kind of really had a crisis and, really changed my mind about what I was able to achieve. So I think you're right, Jen. I think you should focus on the positive. This student is going to class, right? They're
not going to a lot of the tutorials, though. And then they write me really aggressive messages, emails, just asking, I don't even know what they've been asking me for, but hi, I'm not going, can you send me the slides immediately now? Things like that I'm not in love with. So no, they haven't been going to a lot of the tutorials.
Do you have a policy for students about how you're going to handle these kinds of requests? So have you said, if you don't show up to the tutorial, you can ask me for the slides and I'll send them to you? Or do you have if you don't show up to the tutorial and you ask me for the slides, I'm going to tell you, go talk to a peer or get the notes, but it's not my job to supply you with this information? Did you go into the class kind of establishing a sort of here's what I expect from you in terms of behavior?
Yeah, the slides is no big deal to send them out for me, but so she does seem like she cares about her. It'd be nice if she stopped crafting beautiful emails and started crafting papers with that energy, you know what I mean? And there's no way to say that, but it's the energy is going to trying to make me do something different, but I can never produce marks for her, and I don't think she sees that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And that's a situation where that's why I'm wondering if you have to establish a boundary, and because people will push against our boundaries, and they will try and ask, or can I do this or can I do that? But if you feel like it's now shifting the focus from you performing and you doing something to them, this is not you teaching this person is not about your performance. This is about their performance. The grade is about their performance. It's not you being graded. So I feel like you've been very generous in allowing that, also understanding, because we don't know what this person's circumstances were for why they didn't go to the tutorial. It's never safe to assume. So you provide the slides and you feel like that was appropriate.
Yeah.
You would like this person to put more energy into their work, but that is their choice.
Okay,
right?
Thank you. Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. It's all very new and interesting to me, right? Because I've been in this position before.
You've also encouraged them to improve, yes? So you've given them insight into not just a grade saying here it's a 68, but you've also given them insight on how to improve, and then directed them to resources on where to improve as well too, yes?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
Which includes the Writing Center. Yes. We don't know if this person's taking advantage of that or not.
But she seems like, I don't think, she's chatty. I feel like I could very easily ask her or mention it again or something if I wanted to. So that's, I think,
do you think if you do that, you would be taking on the responsibility for this person, or do you feel like you could do it in a way that's supportive but without compromising your own, your own boundary in that regards?
Oh yeah, no, I can be supportive without compromising my boundary. I'm not too worried about that.
Yes, that's something some people really struggle with that. Some people think, once they start helping out, then they basically become, like I said, they're now shifting the kind of role into I'm going to enable you as opposed to I'm going to support you. So you and you know what, Jen, I feel like I'm kind of preaching to the choir. You have background in psychology, you know how these things work.
Yeah.
So as long as you feel like you can do that, responsibly, sure, I'd say just wanted to check in because I know you're concerned about your grades going forward. Have you found any resources or supports to help you with improvements?
Okay, cool. Definitely.
Because even, for example, with the Writing Center, the student could come in with their previous work. I could look at it and go, okay, so, here's what your TA is pointing to. Sometimes they need to hear it from another person. And
that's a good point, because if as soon as you start attributing stuff to me like I'm mean or I think they're stupid, and then it's easy, and of course this is a self-protective thing, then you can dismiss the feedback, right?
Exactly. Okay. And that's my thought, as I kind of wonder if the student's sort of dismissing the feedback.
That would be really interesting. Okay, so I'll try to mention something, and I think maybe in terms of being selfish and having boundaries, maybe for the last 5 minutes, I'll try to ask something about my own schoolwork.
Sure, absolutely. We can transition to that. Absolutely. What's going on?
But there's only, very, very superficially, I think. Let me see. Okay, my one question that I've been working through, I think maybe I've come out the other end of it, I don't know, is like, this overdue paper, the sci-fi paper I've been working on a long time, right? It was looking at transness and racialization, and especially the racialization is like 1960s America, mostly I need to know things about. So I'm a British, I've not studied American literature, and I've not studied as much as I would like to about racialization, but, and then I have another paper due that I'm gonna look at racialization, and so I've been reading, so much about, being black in America, slavery, and asking professors questions, especially, these are all, female white professors who are teaching about race, and just how to feel comfortable as a white person, just feeling like I have anything to say when I actually don't have a lived experience. And I know maybe I'm too, I was raised really Christian, so maybe I just have too much Christian guilt about many things, but this also strikes me as something I've kind of unconsciously put my foot down a little bit about, if I can't do this responsibly, I'm not doing it at all. And then, so figuring out how to be responsible.
Could responsible look like imparting, an element of, what's the word, autoethnography, which is from the social sciences? Is that an element of admitting, here is my experience. Coming from a Western background, Caucasian, Christianity. There are, even these terms, there's a lot of diversity within that. There's certain ideologies. But there's also interesting perspectives as well too that could both kind of broaden and sometimes memories complicate as well too. Okay. So, we could reference the aspect of Christianity, which is this idea of, going out and doing missionary work. That's in some Christian denominations, it's a very important element of testimony and faith, is to share your faith with others.
Well, and I will say too, I'm kind of a failed Christian, so that was it was how I was raised. I think I was just more saying sometimes I think my unconscious is will find ethical issues more than maybe someone who was not raised to be hyper vigilant about ethical issues, but I'm not actually a Christian anymore.
Well, there's also the spiritual component of any religion as well too. There's the social component, the religious and dogmatic approach, and there's also a spiritual element as well too. So I have known many people from different religions. It seems a lot more so with Christianity, who have separated from official church, so official structure or hierarchy, but nonetheless still think of them, still regard a strong spiritual component of their identity and how they practice. So there's interesting dynamics to religion and to faith. Absolutely. So yeah, there could be an element of having in terms of starting a paper saying I wanted to include an autoethnographic element to this paper by acknowledging my experience and my perspective. Here's what I kind of identify, or here's what I kind of associate with my identity, and here's how it could kind of maybe has influenced perspectives, but then it may also allowed me to challenge them as well too.
Okay.
So how do you think, for example, like you said, let's use the example of race. So you're saying that a lot of times dealing with racialization, you identify as white. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I just am really European white, like ethnically. Yeah.
So when it comes to reading the artistic production or the work or the insight of Black authors, how do you think that affects, or what impact do you think your ethnicity has on how you then read these texts? Are you reading them in your mind? You think as I am an outsider, or do we approach it with the I am the colonial presence, or I am part of the hegemony? I am part of like a power structure, so I have to be mindful of that when I read these texts to not impart that power structure onto assuming that this Black character is oppressed because they are Black. I don't know. I'm just kind of giving some examples to sort of spitball it. Do I look at these Black characters that they are part of an in-group and I am not? I am outside of that in-group. I'm just wondering if there's any other ways of thinking about this as well too. Sometimes, let's give an example where it's a story with Black characters, but they're Christian. Can we say in backgrounds of Christianity we see this idea of anyone who is a believer is your brother and or sister? This idea doesn't matter differences in race, age, gender, so on. If you have this shared faith, then you are to be like a family.
Yeah, it's weird too, because I was raised that way. I mean, bro, as a kid, I don't know, maybe because I'm Canadian, like, I hated being white. I thought it was, like, race was messed up. I've never, like, I think because I was raised in a good country for it, I've really never, like, been confused that people, like, race, number one, is not real, though it has cultural reality that people keep feeding it. But I mean, and I grew up like today, so I'm reading more about race. I realized like, oh, my best friend in elementary school is Black. I had never even thought of it. Like, I literally didn't even notice, which again, you cannot notice because that's not good either. But I really wasn't. And I'm also like being like non-binary and pansexual. Like, I always felt like I was like, I've always really liked the idea of including people. Like, so I know that there is a lot of implicit racism built into everything, and that I have certainly not decolonialized my mind, but I've done some work on it, and I do think I was lucky the way I was raised, where I don't really feel much of any of all of those things. Like outsider, like they're less human, or like all these things that you read in like issues with racialization. And like, like I've dated Black guys, like one of my best friends, and again, but then this sounds like virtue signaling, right? This is a problem too, so it's hard to say anything, but I think it's something I've worked on in my life, and that like, am I always just racist because I'm white? Is there like no escape? I feel like the thing is to signal, and then you can just be where you're at, kind of like with anything, right? It feels hard though.
It's a tough question. Yeah, it's a tough question, and I'm not quite sure how to answer that, because that's one thing I do often wonder. That I've actually been told this, and I wasn't quite sure how to feel at the time, but I've been told that only white people can be racist. Someone said this out loud, and I thought, well, that's a very interesting statement. I'm not entirely sure if it's true. At the same time, if it is true, or if there's some validity to it, I wonder, why is that? Why is this idea that does it come down to power structures? Does it come down to this idea of, maybe it's true, let's go with the idea that only white people can be racist. Is it because to be racist you have to be empowered by hegemonic power values, like structures? Can you be racist and oppressed?
And I think just in the literature I'm working with anyway, I think that's kind of the case. I wouldn't comment on like other cultures, but I think what I'm working with, right, because it's either American or British, it's the power, it sits with skin pigment pretty clearly.
and it oftentimes is invisible. So the invisibility of it, I think, is what sometimes makes it a little bit challenging to then speak about it, because you're going, all right, I know this is there, but I sometimes still can't quite see it. I know there is a power dynamic, and I know that there is racial dynamic. Do I see it in the sense of like, oh, well, I wouldn't oppress somebody? No, I don't. I believe a lot of people would never deliberately and consciously want to hurt another person based on race. Some people do. Unfortunately, some people actually deliberately and want to hurt people based on race. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of other people don't want to, but they may unintentionally do so because they simply cannot comprehend what to them is hidden. Mm-hmm. So let's think about it this way. Let's think of it from a science fiction perspective. Let's imagine, how do you see what is not there? Let's imagine, like the Invisible Man, or, how do we see what we cannot see? I guess you could argue you see what you cannot see based on the impacts.
Yes.
I can't see the wind, but I can see it blowing in the trees. Mm-hmm. So I know that there's something there. Maybe I can't see the racism or what I'm doing, if it's oppressive, but I can see the impacts, mm-hmm. which is large portions of the society and our populations who feel like they are being told, you don't belong, or mm-hmm. you're a second-class citizen, or your values are, your worth is less than my worth. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, and I really relate to that because, my work, of course, is about gender, so about feminism and trans people. So, it's in some ways it's very similar to my work because it's about physical difference, right? Like, what do you yes. see written on people's bodies that makes you feel like you can judge them or not, right? And so gender, much like, gender is like body shape, racism is like body color, right? Or like pigment. So I think a lot of the logic does apply, and of course I really care about these things, right? And in uninvisibilizing those structures.
Yes, yeah, and can we play a role? So as people who are, someone who is part of the, let's say, can we help to make it visible, or do we have to? I don't know. I wonder if part of our role is just shutting up and letting the oppressed voice speak up.
Well, that's what I think, which is like, but that's a problem, right? Because that's why I'm not writing this paper. Like, that's because I'm accidentally protesting. This is what I realized the other day. I've been protesting by not writing it without knowing that and just studying all this wonderful Black history. But like, for whatever reason, right? Like, my white professors have decided that this is what I will do now. And so, in a sense, I'm not allowed to protest that because I agree with you. And then really the only way you can turn that in any ethical way is you say, well, basically you use a white body or, your white scholarship to foreground people of color's writing, which is something, right? So, I don't know, but the whole thing still makes me feel icky, but I think I just need the marks, right?
It's hard, and I myself feel like I would probably struggle to navigate it quite a bit, and for that reason, I think that I would probably try to seek out someone I feel like I could talk to about it, kind of in a way to help me understand, because I feel like it is something that I feel like I could struggle with. I wonder, do you think part of it is like, how do we be good listeners, or good readers, I guess, as well too? I mean, is that part of like studying and learning about race and in the context of say literature? How do we be good listeners? Yeah,
well, and that's what I've done though, dude. Like, I've literally read like 50 articles. Like, I mean, I've literally I really did that though, because I didn't want to say stupid things about things I didn't understand that can hurt people. Not because my paper will hurt people, but because the whole structure hurts people when you do that, right?
Okay. So sorry, I apologize. I know
No, you have to go. But so, okay, so you can see too, so I'm not just stupid to see there's some ethical issues with this thing, but that like, I do think autoethnography is the thing to do, and then just I think I just have to let it go. Like, maybe Western is on the wrong side of how they're teaching this, but I think that's something I need to really struggle with another day after getting the mark, because like, what am I going to do about it at this point, right?
that's an element, I think, to it as well, too. I think sometimes we just have to go, okay, we can be transparent, here's my experience, or here are kind of like my limitations, or here's the context I'm working from.
Yeah.
But I still have to now provide analysis or, an interpretation, because that's what you're being told to do, right? You're being told, do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think by doing that, you're showing you're doing due diligence and you're kind of making an effort. But maybe it's just an ongoing project, right? I would say that's true about my own experience. I would say, have I figured out how to navigate? Nope, not in the least. I feel like could we fall it under? It's an ongoing project, and I hope that I'll certainly improve. But I know that I probably have a lot of shortcomings and limitations as it is right now. Here's what those shortcomings are.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. That's wonderful. Yes. Okay. I'll let you go. Thank you so much. This was so wonderful.
You're quite welcome, Jen. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.